Hello, everybody. I'm Marky Bilson and doing innovative sports media for the Tri-Cities, Tennessee area. Many of you know me from my commentaries on East Tennessee State University sports. We're the only real sports commentary in the Tri-Cities, but many of you also will probably know me when you're watching this as the former voice of the Rio Grande Valley White Wings and minor league baseball team play-by-play announcer for that team. Boy, it's been 10 years ago. But that allowed me to meet my next guest, or should I say co host, today from SouthTexasSports.com, which, if you are in the McAllen, Edinburgh, Harlingen market, this is something that you really need to check out to follow the sports scene in the area. And my old friend Ray Silva is very well connected with the local colleges, including Texas Rio Grande Valley and minor league sports teams and such. So the folks down in Texas know who you are, Ray. If you would introduce yourself to the people of East Tennessee.
Hi guys, my name is Ray Silva from South Texas Border Sports. Here out of the Rio Grande Valley area. Cover Division One basketball for the current time. Hopefully in the next 3 years, hope to see East Tennessee State in a non-conference game. Hopefully, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to whoever the AD is there at the time. 2025 would be a excellent date to start a home and home series. Hopefully, wink, wink, nudge, nudge there to Chase Conk. Get busy on those phones, get compliance through everything, and wink, wink, you guys make the trip down here to HB Park or hopefully Sam Stadium in Brownsville for a non-conference game. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's exciting times here in the Rio Grande Valley. Not only football starting up, a lot of excitement towards that, and also women's swimming and diving starting on that note as well for the football equation of that.
And you mentioned that is a great road trip for a lot of teams to make to Rio Grande Valley, Texas, Rio Grande Valley. They're in Edinburgh, Texas, because it's so close to South Padre Island. And you know that if you make a trip down there in December, in January, well, January is probably too late for a basketball game out of conference, but if you do it in December, especially around Christmas or so, I mean, it's a warm weather date and it's a chance to get away from the cold weather and to get a suntan and come back. ETSU used to do this a little bit with trips up to Hawaii in during Christmas time, or they would venture down when they were in the Atlantic Sun Conference to Florida, and that was one of the selling points. But yes, I mean, I always loved going to that area in February in the warm weather and taking a woman with a bikini on down to South Padre Island, that sort of thing here, and all this. Now, but you mentioned wink, wink. RGV, Texas RGV is going to be starting up football, are they not?
Yes, coming in 2025 is the launch date for the football program. Of course, they have to go through the process of finding a head coach. And I've been tossed around Art Briles and a few other names that have been brought up on my social media. And I said, thanks, but no thanks on Art Briles. To me, it don't matter whether he's been exonerated, but I'm pretty sure he's enjoying Italian professional football over there because that's where I last saw his coaching. You could say his history now being at he's in Italy coaching professionals now. Another name that's been tossed out there in my social media ranks has been Mark Regalato, who's serving as a recruiting coordinator for Rice University. So just a few names that have been tossed out there for now, but
It's
nothing
kind of
set in stone.
it's kind of interesting where you would go that way. And I mean, it's 2025. And I mentioned that because in 2015, East Tennessee State restarted football. I was part of the Buccaneer football foundation and friends group that basically kept alive the memory of East Tennessee State until there was East Tennessee State football until there was a president and athletic director sympathetic to restarting the football program. And for those down in South Texas, the first coach was Carl Torbush, who you may remember was the guy that replaced Mac Brown at North Carolina, and then Randy Sanders, who was a longtime assistant coach, Tennessee, Florida State, Kentucky offensive coordinator, and he brought prosperity not seen before to ETSU football with a couple of conference championships. It hasn't been that way last year under George Quarles with a 3-8 record, but that is something right there. RGV now sympathetic to starting football. And this is why I wanted to talk to you today, because East Tennessee State, after the demise of Scott Carter, is going to need an athletic director. And so you're at the games there at RGV. You're connected with South Texas Border Sports.com. Give us some ideas of who you think are up and coming administrators, because let's face it, an AD search is more important than a coaching search, but it's just not as sexy. So who do you like that's an up and coming administrator?
Well, first of all, Mark, before we dive in and toss names in the ringer or into the ring first of all, you gotta have a quality set of check marks of check boxes you guys got to check off first. You know, does this guy bring a three-phase part that will connect with the East Tennessee State people first? You know, is he coaches oriented? Is he student athletes oriented? Or is he front office oriented? And what do I mean by that? So, first of all, you got to have an AD who can connect with the community that is there right now and try to get that community to believe. Once you change that perspective, that perception from doubters to believers, and now you can start building from a foundation that has already been there and try to change that point of view that now you can get that program to what it once used to be, which was at one point a very good mid major. And seeing some of your material that it was once almost a really good mid major at one point. How do you get to that stage again, and how to just get to that next level? That's what you want from your next AD, because you can go out and get any AD and status quo may just continue to be the same status quo. So
Now,
with that in mind, first you want an AD that will connect with the community and then start making connections within the athletic department. First, he's got to see what student athletes are being like right now, what they're going through. Try to make those progressions and those immediate repairs. Second, you got to talk to your front office and then your coaches, which would be like the third part, kind of like our government per se. You've got your three branches of government, which the AD needs to oversee. You've got your students, you've got your coaches, and then you've got your front office staff, which are in the front lines of the fire, and of course your students, which represent the campus. So that's the first thing that East Tennessee State as a university has to look through itself in the mirror. Like what would our ideal candidate be? Right now UTRGV is so fortunate to have Chase Conk as our AD, because right now he's been the man who has taken over some major plans to start up football. And right now, ETSU has a football program, so that's uh, kind of where it it goes off a little bit off topic here on my end,
Mhm.
but for me, you want to get someone who is young, who has been around the NCAA front offices before, and someone who kind of understands the entire process of what college athletics really is right now.
Now, you mentioned those guys. I mean, we both know Chris King, who used to be the athletic director at Texas Rio Grande Valley. You worked with him. I, up in Pittsburgh, kind of hung out with the same circle of friends. I can remember once going to see the Penn State Michigan football game, the one where Charles Woodson starred and became a Heisman Trophy candidate. That was a while back, but at his apartment. There you go. We both knew Chris King. Now he is now the athletic director at Robert Morris up in Pittsburgh, and he's a native Western Pennsylvanian. I think you'd have a tough time getting him out of RMU. I also think that frankly, ETSU fans wouldn't like him considering that ETSU football defeated RMU 45-3 this year. But there have to be some people that you know down there at Texas RGV. So, hey, even if it's just, hey, I'm a member of the media and this is someone I think does a good job. Here's an attaboy. Who do you like that you've been around that you think would be a good athletic director at a mid-major program?
I've seen so many people come and go out of UTRGV, a lot of great people, and it's hard for me to like give someone that attaboy recommendation, but there are a number of them because they've just been so good people that unfortunately they want to be at a bigger stage and be with greater uh with greater challenges for me. Some of the names that for me that stand out, even though you would have a hard time trying to recruit them back into the college scene because they've stepped out of it. Uh, I would recommend Lance Morgan. He's been a person who has been involved in multiple scenes here in the RGV. You would have to try to give him a ring to see if he has a great interest because he's been someone who's been around the college game, been around the college system. He's right now out of the college system, but he would be a name that I would put into the name into the hat. Um, Another name that just comes to mind would be Vince Volpe, but again, right now he is just so happy here in the Rio Grande Valley that he is perhaps doing everything so well right now for UTRGV that he would be another hard, difficult name to pull out of the UTRGV school. And those are just two names because they've been with the big programs. They've worked already with the mid-major programs, and it's just something that you these people know what it takes to really uh, be in a process to where you kind of need to not necessarily rebuild, but re to just reinforce the idea that hey, just because you're a mid-major, just because you have football, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be necessarily in the status quo. If your goal is to really be perennially be up there, say like in the North Dakota states in the
Mhm.
football conference, be a powerful mid-major, say like uh, not necessarily Gonzaga, but be a good, strong story like Davison, who just keeps plugging in players in and out professionally. Uh, you want to be right there to where you can probably take ETSU into a conversation of, hey, we can be ready to be a group of five school instead of just being that the one AA powerhouse that it could have the potential to be.
I want to hold that thought right there. Uh, Tell us a little bit about Lance Morgan. I mean, that's a name that I'm not familiar with. What is his current position? Tell me why you think he would be a good athletic director. What impresses you about Lance Morgan? Who is he?
Lance Morgan, he's currently working out of a company in Toledo, Ohio. The name of the company escapes my head, but during his time here at UTRGV, he kind of helped be a bit of a fundraiser per se. He was part of the group that helped raise funds to start a lot of the improvements that you see at Edinburgh Baseball Stadium, a stadium that you're
Yeah.
familiar with. If you ever journeyed yourself to come out to Edinburgh Baseball Stadium, you would be totally surprised at all the renovations that that place has gone through. Uh, I mean, one of the more noticeable changes that you'll see is that that place no longer has your double walls. Um, then now everything is just single walled with a eyes view. With the only significant double wall area would be out in dead center field,
Hmm.
where you would see like part of the baseball equipment get stored at, like your batting cages and whatnot. There was also an improved scoreboard. Now there you don't have your Spectrum 1970s edition scoreboard anymore. You have something more modernized like a Daktronics out there, something where we can play videos for advertisers and whatnot. Also, the out there in the pavilions in the right field, now you have like a standing room barbecue pit areas where you can take a cooler fulfilled with meat and another cooler with drinks, and you can have your carne asada out
Hmm.
there in right field, which is absolutely great. I mean, a lot of people out there have so much fun. The bullpen entrances have been improved a lot now. So now there's kind of like that little set of stairs where pitchers can come in and out through, at least specifically out in right field for the home team. Left field, you still have to take that little longer walk to come in through a set of gates and make your appearance that way. And those are just some of the minor changes that you'll find, or some of the major changes you'll find now inside of Edinburgh Baseball Stadium. And now, of course, you being in the media,
Hmm.
uh, the flooring of the press box has changed significantly. The chairs have also changed in there, so you no longer have the spinning
Oh.
chairs anymore.
I will tell you that one thing that I know about Edinburgh Baseball Stadium, because I know that the East Tennessee element watching in here has never been there, maybe one person, but it's a much larger stadium than what ETSU plays in, which is the stadium that I will say should be named after James Mooney. I'm not going to call it by its slave name. And just so the people in Rio Grande Valley know what I'm talking about, Jim Mooney was a former pitcher years ago, 100 years ago, for East Tennessee State, who once struck out 21 batters in a game. And then he became a major leaguer, was on the Gas House game, the 34 St. Louis Cardinals. And then he became a longtime fixture in Johnson City in the ETSU athletic department, doing everything from coaching the basketball team to refereeing basketball games. Excuse me, coaching the baseball team to refereeing basketball games. But yeah, Edinburgh Stadium, let's face it, Texas Rio Grande Valley is a former College World Series participant. So, it makes sense that they would have such a stadium. And when you look at Lance Morgan and part of those renovations, one of the things that ETSU, I have always said, needs is a new arena of their own. Really, I think the community does. And I'm suggesting something 8 to 10,000 seats with the floor space that you could have minor league hockey in there, to bring in the concerts that won't come to the smaller venues, but will come to a 10,000 seat arena, let's say, that Freedom Hall once got For those of you who don't know, down there in South Texas, Freedom Hall is now where East Tennessee State plays, and it's probably best known for being the venue where the Ragdoll video for Aerosmith was recorded years and years ago, if you recall that one. So, yeah, I mean, at one time it got concerts like that. No more. So that's one of the things about how Johnson City and the Tri Cities have become a little
No,
less cosmopolitan.
no,
Whereas your State Farm Arena, I wanted to say, I mean, Selena Gomez is going there with her boyfriend. I mean, that sort of
well, to be honest with you, that arena is no longer called State Farm Arena. There's been a small war of marketing between Bert Ogden, which is a local car dealership,
thing.
which has a lot of financial backing, and then you also have Payne Arena, where the referencing of State Farm Arena used to be. Now that the State Farm Arena is somewhere in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, home of the Atlanta Braves.
Hmm.
And I will say this much, for as long as time that I can remember UTRGV athletics, I mean, I don't ever recall them ever playing at Payne Arena while in
Hmm.
my tenure there. Another thing that just stands out, uh Bert Ogden Arena, which is the newer arena, which has the dimensions of something of what East Tennessee State is looking for. A lot of that also comes into play your local government.
Yes.
That can also be a major factor as to why East Tennessee State can be held back a little bit, because the city of Edinburgh has done such a great job, regardless of mayor. They've been able to help out a lot with the growth of UTRGV, formerly known back then as Texas Pan American. There was a nice little merger uh, almost a decade ago, which allowed UTPA, now UTRGV, into the Western Athletic Conference. So that's a lot of the backstories
Hmm.
uh, that this area has seen over almost a decade ago. And I guess a lot of the growth at UTRGV, UTPA, or we'll just stick to UTRGV, has seen a lot of growth, I want to say within the last decade.
Yeah.
And it started with like a visionary plan that Chris King had, and that Chase Conk is currently continuing to take right now during this beautiful renaissance time for us, because this area is so unique in that, okay, we're so close to Mexico, it has a Division 1 campus, and now football is going to be thrown into the mix.
Now, I want to go with your candidate. You mentioned who you say now is fundraising for the University of Toledo. Lance Morgan, is that?
No,
Uh,
he
oh,
he's not at Toledo. I said he is working in a company inside of Toledo.
I see. I
Uh,
see.
and that's why I had forementioned earlier that he would be a little bit of a difficult draw for East Tennessee State to get, because he's working in the private sector,
Sure,
but
sure.
he has a wealth of experience working Division 1 sports. That would
What
be,
has he done? Could you give me a little bit of a resume there?
well, he's done like the important fundraising to help start some of the renovations that you currently see at the UTRGV
Hmm.
baseball stadium. So that's part of the stuff that he's done. He's helped start recruiting helping to get the important donors to help out start this baseball project, to really and enhance the experience for the student athletes. Just recently, Edinburgh Baseball Stadium uh, recently completed 20 years of existence, and a lot of these renovations were done to kind of like bring it up to speed to what a nice minor league baseball stadium used to be. Now is, for now, a single use entity for collegiate sports at this point. Yeah, that's some of the more important things that
Hmm.
he's done here, and of course, just help all the other sports programs. Uh, just grow that identity, get that refresh the look to UTRGV at this point. That's some of the things that he's done. Now, Vince Volpe, he's done a lot of the marketing, a lot of also heavy fundraising for what now UTRGV is as well. So both Lance Morgan has done a lot of the corporate, done a lot of the corporate selling per se. If you want to
Hmm.
like give him like more of a responsibility. He's done a lot of the corporate raising, while Vince Volpe, on the other hand, he's done more of the marketing and selling of the university as to why it is in a grand position where it is now.
And the only reason I focused on Morgan and not Volpe is that you told me that Volpe was very oriented to South Texas, so it would be difficult to get him to East Tennessee.
Yes.
But what was? Let me just ask you this: what was Morgan's title at Texas Rio Grande Valley?
I I may be mistaken so much here because,
Sure.
like I've said, I've seen a lot of people come and go from
Okay.
administrations here at UTRGV. But hey, the time that they were here, they've done something good, something positive, and I believe with Lance Morgan, he was like, I believe, the director of corporate sales.
Okay.
So he's brought in a lot of the sponsorship, a lot of the sponsorships that you see now. I mean, back when I started, there was like signs all over the place that weren't bringing in revenue.
Hmm.
And now all of those signs have been changed to actual companies who bring in monies that actually help out the department for the sake of its own good, where whether it's gone to improvements, enhancing the life of students, just to really help out the department in where it needs.
Yeah, when you were mentioning the double wall on the baseball stadium, I know exactly what you're talking about. It used to be that they had 20-foot high outfield walls, and that was to double up on billboards and all that. And usually that was sort of like a trade advertising. Wait a minute, Motel 6, if you put up the ball players when they're on the road, the visiting ball players will give you a sign at the ballpark. Okay, that was part of the deal. But you're saying is that now you can hit home runs at the place that might bounce off the pretty palm trees behind the outfield
Well,
wall.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's beautiful palm trees there, yes,
Yes.
but
Anyway.
that they'll hit the palm trees, I don't know. But I tell you what, that ballpark has become homer friendly, and
And it
and and
wasn't before.
and it wasn't before. And I won't lie to you. Before, like the double walls came down, there maybe have been a total of two home runs that were hit to dead center field, uh just a handful of home runs that would be hit to right field, courtesy of Brian Nichols, a hitter known to you and me,
Yeah.
aka the Pink Panther, for his walk-up music. But now you take away the double walls, and it's been like a hitter's paradise. So if you're a pitcher, you're gonna have to throw everything low and away, low and inside, nothing in the middle up.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes here left. So let me go here. Morgan, who raised money with the corporations, and we've mentioned how important that is. I know Scott Carter once was quoted as saying, "What do you want to do as an athletic director? Build great relationships." Well, he's saying he wants to have really big time boosters. And unfortunately, in ETSU's case, those big time boosters may have had a little bit too much of a say, which is part of the things with college athletics, especially during the famous kneeling for the anthem controversy with the basketball team. And Joe Trujillo, who owns a car dealer called Johnson City Honda. Wanted to, though, ask, when you're talking about marketing and all this, how does RGV, you're in the shadow of Texas A&M, San Antonio Spurs, much like ETSU is they're in the shadow of the University of Tennessee. I even say they're subservient to them. How does RGV3 market against that, to have their own niche there in their own community and really be the hometown team, and not having people drive up to Austin every Sunday or Saturday, as the case may be?
Well, right now, since the school doesn't have football yet. Just recently, the team was able to bring down the baseball team. As it was
Yeah.
well known, over 6,000 people attended that game, and they had to bring in like a chopper to dry the infield and everything else just to have the game ready, despite being a nice threat of rain. And I remember having to get there like 3 hours before the game would start, and man, I mean the place was just buzzing. And just recently, the Texas Longhorns men's basketball team was also down here maybe about a week ago. And man, I mean, just to even be a part of that was just so special. Now, when it comes to marketing, I mean, hey, look, they've been trying to have events in Brownsville, in the SPI area. They've been trying to get a lot of their sports out there to the eastern part of the valley and to make them feel part of the Rio Grande Valley, because if you can recall during the UTP days, it was like very seldomly that there was athletic events carried out there if it wasn't for the South Padre Island Invitational, which would hold 8 basketball teams and would have a multi-team event various time just once a year for the men, and they would also do the same thing for women. And now, after almost a decade of not having that event, they brought it back now, and it's started to become like a 3 day weekend. The weekend before Christmas, a weekend before conference play would start, and I tell you what, it's one of my favorite events to work at because nothing beats the island in December, the week before Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful vacation spot. And the thing is, the motels are cheap, the restaurants are good, and I even like double days due to the fact that wherever you're from, there's going to be a little something uh, from your hometown in the memorabilia held at double days. You Anyway, we're giving free advertising to a South Padre Island sports bar. So let me go to and tell you that I think that. Well, let me just say this: that it's very interesting you mentioned bringing Texas down to the Rio Grande Valley, because that's something that ETSU, Tennessee says, hey, no, we're not going to play in Johnson City against the Buccaneers. We might lose. And I've always felt that they need to call them out. Look, you're willing to play a big old football game at our racetrack here in Bristol. Well, then I tell you what, you want an opponent, we'll be your opponent. We'll take the drubbing, but we'll also take the money. I mean, you've got to do something like that to really put yourself on the map and set yourself apart and not be subservient to East Tennessee State, or to Tennessee, excuse me, if you're East Tennessee State. So good move right there by RGV. One last question. I sent your want to make a comment on that. So let me just say this though, and ask you this: do you think that the current model of FCS, and it seems to me that would be where the football team down there would be going through, do you think that model is sustainable, or should a long range goal for Texas Rio Grande Valley or an East Tennessee State be to try to join the group of five, or maybe even bring up their current conferences to group of five football? What are your thoughts there?
Right now, Marky, since 2025 is a near 2 years away now, right now, I think the grand model for UTRGV is to try to stay FCS for at least 5 years, and
Mm-hmm.
then try to do some studies in year 6 to see where you could actually stand yourself in a group of 5, or keep everything as is, because UTRGV hasn't played a single down yet, but yet they are going to be part of the conversations where it's been said from Stephen F. Austin, if I'm not mistaken, the Lumberjacks head coach. He said that the WAC is leaning towards gathering the ASUN football schools and kind of doing like a football conference only,
Mm-hmm.
and UTRGV is going to be part of that conversations starting next year, because now they're going to have to bring in the coach and 2 assistants to start the recruiting class, to start the recruiting process going. So right now, that's where UTRGV is at right now, is to just keep this FCS stuff for at least the first 3 to 5 years, and then perennially look, ask the other remaining schools and conferences, hey guys, interested in moving up? Because what the WAC has is that they have that card to move up, thanks to like a special exemption that they had before this whole blow up of Power Fives and Group of Fives had. So thankfully, the WAC had that trump card per
Mhm.
se in their back pocket all this time.
I'll make the wild prediction of the day: 2035 Holiday Bowl, Texas RGV versus East Tennessee State in football. What do you say? If you remember with the old MAC, they used to have that tie-in with, or the old WAC used to have the tie-in with the Holiday Bowl in years gone by. But anyway, the name to remember, East Tennessee State fans, and for that matter, to that Ray Silva has talked about, Lance Morgan. Okay, like I said, AD searches aren't sexy. We don't know who the candidates are, but that's a guy to look at, and somebody that an attaboy for the people down in South Texas at RGV, Vince Volpe too, doing a lot of good things there at Texas Rio Grande
Now,
Valley.
now, obviously,
I got two
during
minutes left, so yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
I'll keep it short here. When you're searching for an AD, also try to look among your other peers, per se. Like not only keep it within your conference, but
Sure.
try to dig around, like say the Southland, the SWAC, because they're going through a renaissance of growth as well too, with Coach Prime being there at Jackson State. So that's just like an idea where East Tennessee State needs to like go out there and find someone with a right athletic mind state. But those are just
Yeah.
two names that are not even official candidates. So
Hey,
for me, just to put their names inside that hat, I mean, anything's a given anything can be a given in college sports nowadays.
well, for the best in commentary and reporting on Texas Rio Grande Valley, it's South Texas Border Sports with Ray Silva here. I'm the only guy doing sports commentary in the Tri Cities. So, yeah, my YouTube channel, Marquis Bilson, check it out, TikTok, what have you. Uh, until next time, Ray, let's remember Lance Morgan. And until next time, so long, everyone.